Hey, what is up everyone? So we're starting off a new video here. This video is going to be about diagnosing a starter on a Hummer. So I've got the Hummer over there. I found out that the battery is actually dead. I multimetered it when the car got here. It was towed here and the battery was dead, so I figured I'd put a battery in it just to see. And after putting a battery in it, it still did not start. When you turn the key, it does absolutely nothing. So I'll demonstrate that. Right now I'm going to try to go throw a jump box on the car. I've got this jump box charging right here. So we'll see if this thing works. This jump box I think is broken, but we'll see if maybe we can get it to work just by keeping it plugged in or something like that. So we're going to find out if it works. So right here's that huge Hummer in my driveway. Currently not running, and it was towed here, so it's kind of taking up the whole driveway. But it's not the end of the world. I'm gonna try to get it fired up as soon as I can and get it moved. But battery's out because it's not working. But yeah, when you go inside the car and you turn the key, nothing happens. So I'm gonna hook the jump box up, demonstrate that, and then I'll show you guys how to diagnose it. So I've gone ahead and got the jump box hooked up. The jump box is currently running the car instead of a battery. It's plugged in and charging. Bit of a shadow here, but it does say 13. So we're gonna turn it like this, and you can hear the actuators in the car cycle on. I did try this with an actual battery, so I know that the jump box won't be our issue. It won't be the reason we don't start. So if I turn the key, see it comes on to the on position, and then when I spin it to crank, nothing happens at all. No starting noise, nothing. So with that being said, we know it's either a starter, or it could be something with the theft deterrent system. It's not on this car, because if it was the theft deterrent system, you'd see a little lock on the dash. When you key these GM cars up, there's a little lock that appears on the dash when the key is in the on position, right? If I can find it. That's the little lock right there. That just went away. If that stays on, then you know you have an issue with your theft deterrent system, so that's a whole other issue. But for us, I'm assuming it's a starter problem, so we're gonna grab a test light and get to work testing this car. So we have our test light right here, and this is a pretty cool diagnostic tool, but basically all you have to do to use it is hook up the one side of the tool. Mine's a bit broken, so I have a little alligator clamp onto the end of it, but that clamps onto a known ground on the vehicle. So easy spot is the battery negative terminal. So it's just hooked in with our jump box here, and then you're going to take your probe, and anything that you touch with this that is 12 volts at this, at the current point in time, will light up the handle. So if I touch to here, you should see this lights up. It's a little faint, but you can definitely see that. So say I touched it to the negative over here, it's not going to light up. But touching it to 12 volts runs it through the bulb, and when it makes connection, it lights up for you. So it's a pretty cool tool, but I'm going to fish this down near where the starter is, and we can test out a couple of wires. Right now I've actually got the car hooked up and the jump box is turned on. So you can see I have my test light right here, and I'm going to go probe a couple of wires. So this one down here you may or may not be able to see. The bigger bolt here is our constant power from the battery. So this should get power all the time. You can see the test light is lighting up. The thing about this is you want to make sure you have a good connection. These connections down here can rust because they're almost underneath the vehicle. So with road conditions and salt and grime, they can rust, and if you don't get a good connection with your test light, it could give you a false reading. So we know that we have constant power to the actual motor itself, but there's a solenoid that pushes the starter in place, and that solenoid is controlled by this 10 gauge purple wire here on this car. So in order to get to that wire, I had to peel back the shielding a little bit, but it's okay because I was pretty sure that it was a starter. So I peeled the wire back a little bit. I'll have to repair that when I change the starter. But when I probe this purple wire right here, you shouldn't have any power there until you turn the key on in the car. So if I set this up like this and go turn the key on, we should get the test light to light up. And if we do, then we know that our starter is getting power. The solenoid is getting power to engage, and if it does not engage, then we know that the starter is bad. And or the connection between the wire and the starter is bad. But I would assume that since the connection is connected together and it rusted together, it's probably no longer making a connection. So I would say that we have a bad starter, but I'm gonna go turn the key on and show you guys that we have power there. If you didn't have power there, I would keep trying just to make sure that you have a good connection. But if you don't have power there, then I would say you have a different problem. It could be an ignition switch or something of that nature that's not giving the starter power. You could always jump that if you gave 12 volts to the solenoid, and it should crank the engine over, and that would tell you if your starter is working and give you that for sure knowledge. But it's just diagnostic stuff. So I'm gonna go turn the key on, and we're gonna see if we get the test light to light up. Alright, so hopefully you could see the test light light up and know that we have power at that purple wire, which tells us that our starter is malfunctioning. So we're gonna have to change the starter, and also we're gonna have to put a battery in this car, but that should fix our problem. So I'm gonna get a starter for pretty soon, and I'll get started putting it in. I went ahead and removed both the 10 gauge wire and the larger power wire. So you can see I took the wheel off here so you guys could get a better look at this starter, but that little bolt there in the center, that guy is where the purple wire was, and the fat bolt on the bottom down there is where the constant power was. So you got to make sure you have your battery disconnected, because when you remove that constant power, it could short out on something. So, and that other bolt back there is just the ground that's connected to the case, and the ground on this is actually the case because it's connected to the block, and the engine block has a ground. So that's the ground in this circuit. But there's two bolts on the bottom that I'll show you. I'm going to take out those two 13s, and then this starter should come out, and then we'll be able to put our new starter in. Underneath the car here's the bottom of the starter. We were working up there in the wheel well. You got two 13s, one right here, and there's one over here as well. And those two 13s, once you take those off, the starter should come right out. Actually, there's a little shield here, this little black shield, and there's a 10mm that holds that on. So I'm going to take that 10 off, and then I should be able to take the two 13s out, and we'll have this starter out. So right here I have the old starter, and there's the new starter. Looks much nicer. This little shield on top there is to protect the starter from the heat from the exhaust manifold. So I'm going to have to transfer that to the new one. But after that, I'm just gonna drop this one in its place, and we should be good to go. We're gonna see if we can get a crank out of it. So I got the new starter all put in. I had the shield put on the top, and I went hand tight with the two positive cables that I was attaching. The 8mm is smaller. You gotta be careful not to rip the solenoid out of the whole thing. I've heard that happening. So yeah, should start up now. We don't have a battery for it, but maybe it'll start on the broken jump box. If not, I'll throw a battery from my truck in it, and we'll see if we can get it to start. If so, then we know we had a repair. Even so, right now we should hear a little something, a little bit of a crank. So I'm gonna go give it a crank, and we will see if this thing acts like it's working. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to go inside the car and bump the starter really quick. I don't really want to start the car, I just want to hear the starter move so we know that we made a solid repair, because I don't know if the jump box is going to give us too much life. I got to try to fix that jump box. So I do need to move the car in the driveway so it's more suited for parking cars. Right now it's sort of congested, so I'm going to go try to start the car and we'll see if she turns over, but I'm not going to actually start it. Success! I heard the starter try to start, so based on that, I think we're going to be okay. So I'm going to put the wheel back on and let the jump box keep charging, and hopefully we can get it one start and one little move out of this thing before the jump box dies on me. So we have the jump box on the car. The jump box is charging right now. I don't think the jump box is going to be able to do it, but we're going to see. So I'm going to turn the 12 volts on the jump box, try to start the car. If it works, I'm going to unplug the extension cord and try to move the car to a good spot. So 12 volts is going on. Car's on. See if it cranks. She does not have enough juice, so we're gonna have to put a battery in this car to move it, unfortunately. So it's about a day later. I was busy, I had a few things to do, but I did end up moving the Hummer right after we tried the jump box and it didn't work. So I ended up taking the battery out of my dad's truck and I put it into this Hummer and we got it fired up and moved. So that's all fixed, but now we just need a battery for it. So we're gonna have to put a battery in it, and there's a few other things I'm gonna be doing on this Hummer. Some sound stuff, so just some basic car audio stuff, amplifiers and a head unit and stuff like that. So I'm gonna be working on that, and it also needs a blower motor resistor, I believe. So we're gonna work on that as well. But that's not the last you'll see of this Hummer, but that's gonna be it for this episode. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.